Mr. Thomas Baulch, thanks for joining me, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
A good bloke when I'm asleep.
Yeah, that was my. That's a funny joke that I make about myself sometimes. That's on my Facebook. I think my Facebook. I don't know, biography. I guess.
Yeah.
Good bloke when I'm asleep. I don't know. It's a funny joke that we joke about as friends in our friendship group. There's either good bloke when I'm asleep or good bloke when my head hits a pillow. So they're the jokes we have like flying around the group, which is always funny. Not just about me, we all say it about each other. But I thought I'd bring it on myself, and I think that being able to take the piss out of yourself is a really important thing. I think it makes you a little bit more relatable to other people.
Do you find that as a coping mechanism, I guess, for what you do?
Nah, not really. I like any type of hate or any type of clapback that I get from things that I do. It doesn't really affect me. I think that people overreact so much about it. It's like I post what I post, and I'm never going to complain if someone like doesn't vibe with it or doesn't like it, because like I'm the one posting it. I'm not going to start crying about, I get hate on social media. It's like, you post what you post on social media. So, suck it up and deal with it. If you're going to complain about it, stop fucking posting.
Sure.
And I'm never going to stop posting, because then everybody else wins.
Can you take me back to a life event in your youth, I guess, that you think has helped shape you into the man you are today?
An event in my youth.
I spoke to your mum before this, and I'm going to read out a quote that she said. When he was young, he was laser focused in everything he did and was always different from the crowd.
Yeah, it's very true. I think the first thing that comes to mind for me was I grew up in a really small country town. And when you're in a small country town and there's about 1,000, 2,000 people in this country town called Kojonup, where I grew up in Western Australia, 3 hours away from Perth. And I was pretty good at everything because I didn't have much competition, right? Like, I was the best football player. I was probably one of the smartest. And you kind of get this, you build up this self-confidence about yourself that you're really good at things. And I probably didn't have to work that hard for those things. And then I think that it wasn't until I went to a big private school in Perth, and, instead of having 12 people in your class, you now have 300 people in your class, and they're all boys, and they're all filled with testosterone, and they're all good at footy, and they're all good at cricket, and they're all, working really hard. They're all smart. And I think that me going to that school really changed a lot of things that I was doing, because it made me realize that I actually have to work really hard to be good at anything, and things aren't just gonna, be handed out to you. And I think that was a pretty big life-changing moment for me. And I think that I was almost so far behind when I got there that I was like, I don't even know if there's any point kind of even trying. And it wasn't until like year 10 or 11 that I started to be like, if you're going to do anything, you're really going to have to, kick it yourself.
Far behind from a educational perspective, or
yeah,
just mindset?
Yeah, but I think from everything, like especially from an educational standpoint, because I also wanted to, even though I was different from a lot of people, always have been, I still wanted to fit in, because you gain a lot of comfort from fitting in. And to fit in that small country town, you rocked up late to school. You didn't wear school uniform. You didn't try in school. It wasn't cool to be smart. It was cool to be good at footy, but it wasn't cool to be smart. So I wouldn't try in tests. I wouldn't try in school, because even though I was different, I wanted to fit in still, because it is comforting. And then when I moved to that private school, and I moved to Hale School in Perth, it was now cool to be smart, and it was cool to be good at footy, and it was cool to try. And it had never been cool to try before. And when it was cool to try, I was like, this is probably what's best for me. And looking back on that, I probably didn't even really know. I didn't take a step back from that experience and be like, this is actually shaping me, until, you get a little bit older and you're like, this is kind of a pretty big moment that did shape me when I was a kid.
You use the word different. What were you doing that was different, or how were you different, do you think?
I think I always wanted to stand out. I always wanted people to notice me or recognize me or be like, that's Tom Baulch. Like he's this or he's that. Like I really enjoyed that. I got a dopamine hit out of people recognizing who I was and what I did. And I think that I always wanted to be well known, recognized, or famous. And I thought that footy was going to be that, because social media didn't exist when I was a kid. It wasn't a thing. Couldn't be when I was growing up, social media influencer or content creator wasn't a job description. Didn't exist, right? But footy existed, and being a pro athlete existed. So I wanted to be a pro athlete, and that I thought was going to be the vessel for me to be recognized and me to be famous. And it, probably never really turned out the way that I expected it to. But I always felt like, and I think that this is like the most important thing, is you have to be like, you have to think that you're going to be more. And I always thought, I was like, I know I'm cut out for more than this. Like I know I'm going to be bigger than this. I know I'm going to be more. And I still don't think I've even reached the heights of what I'm going to be just yet. And that might sound a little bit presumptuous, or it might even sound a little bit too confident to some people. But without that mindset, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now today.
Now that you are recognised, because you spoke before, you said you recognised it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Are there negatives to that?
Absolutely. You don't have any privacy in your life, and it's the takeaway. And look, I wouldn't change anything about who I am and what I do, but I do recognize that you have no privacy. And especially in, last year I'd post some photos out the front of my house. People figured out where I lived, and our house got egged multiple times. People rock up the front of our house, like bringing our doorbell and either running or asking for photos. There was positives and negatives. And then, you post, your family, you post your partner, and they get, inundated with either messages, or they get, a lot of attention, on the streets or whatever it might be. Like, it's not just your own privacy, it's your family, your friends, and, your girlfriend or your partner, and it kind of takes away from them as well. And I guess social media is that, like, you're putting yourself out there to be seen by people, and you got to be ready for everyone to kind of know a lot of things about you. And sometimes there's a lot of things that you don't really want them to know about you, and that's really difficult.
Does that make you want to do things differently? When like you're getting egged, for example? Like,
nah,
or is it, yeah.
Yeah. Nah.
Yeah.
Because you're doing something, right? Like,
yeah.
What's the alternative? It's like, well, yes, getting eggs sucks, whatever. But also, like, people know who I am and where I live. Like, that's kind of, and then they care enough to either egg your house because they hate you, or rock up to your house and take a photo with you and say, you've changed my life, I love you so much. There's good and bad for it. But at the end of the day, going back to what I wanted when I was a kid, I wanted to be recognized. I wanted to, have some sort of fame. I wanted to walk down the street and people ask to have photos with me and be like, that's Tom Baulch. And people do that now. So I kind of got my wish. Obviously, it's like when you get the genie in the bottle, and then, it's kind of like the devil, and you go, I want this. And then all the bad comes with that thing as well. And you don't really know what you're getting yourself into at the start, because, you just post on social media and you have a bit of fun with it. And then all of a sudden, you don't have that privacy anymore. So look, I wouldn't change it for the world. It's frustrating because it cost me a shitload of money to get all the eggs off, like $1,000, but that's all right. It, it comes with, good and bad.
Did you listen to Ned Brockman on Chris Williamson?
I did. Yeah.
He said in that quote, he said a quote in there that I thought I'd write down. Mm-hmm. And it's exactly what you said before, that I thought would be easy to relate to exactly what you just said. It's around minute 35, and he talked about the fact that we are innately drawn to want people to love us. We want people to approve of us and welcome us with open arms. However, it's all good when you have people that don't like you as long as you're being yourself, and have people in your life that violently love you and can support and can't support you enough. Remember listening to that?
Yeah, I love Ned. I love that quote. I love Chris Will as well, actually. It was a great link up. I think that is so true, isn't it? Like, we always talk about it in our household how everyone's always there to support you when like everything's going really well. And then as soon as the tides turn, it's like no one's there for you. And that's where you really recognize who your real friends are a lot of the time. And, you know, when you're first coming up, especially, you know, for me, when I was first coming up on social media, I had a lot of the boys in the chat being like, you're shut up, like stop posting on social media. We don't want to see this. I can't wait to block you. You know, you're going to fail, blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as I started to gain a little bit of following, those people were the first people to message me privately and say, hey, can you sort me out with a gym program? And it's so crazy how like the tides can just change straight away. And it's not necessarily that they're not your friends or they are your friends or, you know, they like you or they don't like you. It's just the way that the world works. And it's like people are going to try and cut you down when you start something off. Like, because realistically, you're not anyone. You're not doing anything yet. And people will start to recognize you when you start to tick some boxes. And that's just the way the world works, unfortunately. So suck it up and deal with it, I guess.
Would you describe that period of your life as the lonely chapter?
Very interesting concept, the lonely chapter. I don't think that was that time for me. I went through, but yes, to answer your question, I did go through a lonely chapter, but it was last year. I went 6 months, came back from Europe, probably wasn't in the best shape of my life. I just got injured pretty badly playing footy, and I was kind of feeling a little bit lost with everything. And I literally pretty much locked myself in a room for 6 months. I didn't go out, didn't go to any parties, didn't drink. Really disciplined with my diet and got the best shape of my life. Probably felt the best I've ever felt. But at the end of the day, it is lonely. Like, you don't have that social connection. Like, I probably talked to like 2 or 3 people that whole time, and they were my closest friends and family. And we're human beings. Like, we need social connection. We need to be around other people. We need to be around other humans. It makes us happy. Even though it might not be the healthiest thing in the world, going out for a beer with your friends, with your mates, that might not be, overall the most healthy thing, because you go and have 5 or 6 beers. But then the happiness that it gives you of like social connection, I think to me means a lot more than the slight negative of alcohol consumption, which you don't even have to have alcohol if you don't want. You can still just go and just have fun and have a steak or have a palmy or whatever. The lonely chapter is such an interesting thing because, yeah, I was happy when I was doing that lonely chapter, but there was part of me that was happy, but I wasn't fully happy because I just didn't have that social connection, and I love that part of life. And as humans, we need that, I think. Well, maybe not everybody, but I need that to be happiest.
What spurred on, or what motivated or inspired is probably not the right word, you to actually lock yourself in the room?
I just think that I was a little bit lost with everything. I think that I'd become this person on social media and everybody kind of knew who I was, and it went so quickly for me. Like, everything went from like nobody knowing who I was to all of a sudden I'm like traveling around the world playing footy, and I can't walk down the street and people would take photos with me, and I couldn't, like, I'd go out to a bar or a club and I would literally just go just to like see, not even my friends, just to go out and take photos with people, and I felt really good. It was a good dopamine fix for me. And it kind of all just like came to a head where I was like, Like, what am I actually doing this for, and who am I doing this for? Like, I'm a fitness content creator. I'm doing programs. I'm doing, nutrition, and I'm probably not living that life at all. And I think that in myself, I just wasn't happy with the person that I was. So I guess I just had to lock in and lock away kind of the distractions. And that was the best thing for me at that time, because I had to prove to myself. I think that what I really had to do was prove to myself that I could say no. I could say no to the bad food. I could say no to the alcohol. I could say no to, vaping. I could say no to everything, and I could be disciplined. I think that was like a really important thing, that I had control over my own life. And it was a really good period for me. I enjoyed it. But I think that something that I'm still working on is finding that balance of everything, and being able to balance, just life in general, because I'm very good at locking in and I'm very good at unlocking, and it's just about, finding that kind of happy medium.
You happy with yourself now?
I'm happy, but could be happier. We could all be happier, maybe. I don't know. I'd say I'm very lucky. I'd say I'm very fortunate.
Why?
I've got fantastic people around me. I've got a very supportive family. I could live in a place with more sun. That's probably one thing.
Yeah. It's hot at the moment.
That would make me happy. Yeah, it's boiling. It's about 40 degrees outside. I think, I don't know, because I have that internal battle where it's like, am I at my happiest when I'm just like fully locked in and I'm, only have those 2 or 3 friends? But then, you lose your social connection, and it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I find balance such an interesting prospect. I'm really excited to go. I'm going home to Noosa literally tomorrow. And I'm really keen to kind of just chill out with my family for a month, like get away from Melbourne, and kind of just get my ducks in order of like, where do I really want to go in 2025? What's next for me? And kind of just figuring out exactly my movements for 2025, because I've been in this game for a while now. I've probably been doing social media for 4 or 5 years, which is a long time for social media. Like most people in and out in a year or 2 years because they end up hating it. Like I'm somewhat of a veteran in this game now. So yeah, I don't know. It's just like it's figuring out what's next for me. But am I happy? Yes, I am happy. I'm a happy person. But yeah, it's just figuring out what's next.
I'm about to raise the 12-month bet
on socials. Well, it's like the podcast thing where everyone says, oh, they do. I think it's like 20 podcasts. Like most people would, 80 or 90% are done by 10 podcasts or something. Yeah. I don't know what the stats are, but people quit and people give up pretty quick, which is fantastic for people like us, because if you just keep going, that you're a pretty high chance of sticking at it.
On November the 26th, 2023, on your birthday, you wrote, "There's a profound difference in where I was at 12 months ago, both mentally and physically." 12 months later, do you see that? Would you write the same thing? Because you just had your birthday recently.
Yes. Just turned 25 recently. I'm getting old.
I'm 29. Give me a break.
I'm getting old. I think that changed. So that was the period where I was really kind of going through that phase. And that was probably one of the biggest transformations I've had as a human being. I feel like that year was crazy. 12 months forward, I think they'll almost forget what I've done in the last 12 months. Like I've single-handedly organized and rationalized and traveled all around Australia and the world playing footy for different football clubs, which has never been done before. And I didn't have any sponsors. I didn't have any help with that. That was all me. I did that. And that was almost so long ago that I kind of forget about it. Like I only really remember the last like 2 or 3 months. I ran my first marathon in sub 3, which is like pretty ridiculous for a lot of people. Did my first high rocks yesterday. yesterday, which was also like pretty crazy. Like we got in the top 5 people in duos, which is like crazy achievement. But then it's like, I don't know. I'm always looking for the next thing, I guess. And I think that can be that can be at the detriment of your happiness, because you're like, as soon as the race finished on the weekend, I was like, can't wait to train for the next one. And it's like, just fucking enjoy the one that you've just done. It's like where Chris Will talks about how people go on holidays and then they're standing at the front on their balcony of, you know, their holiday destination. They're like, can't wait to come back here next year. It's like, you're fucking here right now. Just enjoy the thing that you're doing right now. That's the same with me. You know, it's that ever longing look into the future of being like, I can't wait for what's next. Instead of just celebrating the small wins. So to answer your question, I think that I've transformed a lot over the last year. I think I've done it a lot. I think as you get older, it almost gets more confusing as you know, as you get older, because you think you've got it all figured out, and then you're like, fuck, maybe I don't have it all figured out. Maybe I've actually got no idea. I think that's probably the best thing, because the last thing you want to do is think that you've got it all figured out when you don't.
What's something that's happened recently that made you think that?
Oof.
Putting you on the spot.
Oh, I don't know. Something comes to my head, but then I'm like, I don't know if I want to say it on podcast. I think all the time with like friends and relationships. I think that I've got it all figured out, and I think that I know exactly what I want. And then I wake up the next week and I'm like, maybe that's not what I want. You know, like I think that I'm going to be in Australia all next year, and then all of a sudden I'm like, no, I'm going to go to America for 3 months, and like now that's in my plans. And then I think that because I'm so spontaneous with things that I do, and I don't really plan too much. Like I just like, I remember 2 years ago I got banned from footy for drinking a beer on the field, which was hilarious, quite funny. And got banned for 4 weeks. And then, you know, I was like, well, what am I going to do for the first 4 weeks of the season? And I decided to book a trip to Vegas for the first 4 weeks of the season and go to Vegas. And that was like the most fun ever. But like, who the fuck does that? Like, that's just a stupid thing. So I think that for me, it's just like, yeah, I don't know. Friends and relationships. I've got the best friends in the world here. I love them so much. And I don't know, it can just be hard as you get older, because you've got all these different things that you're trying to juggle. As you know, you've got you've got all of your work, you've got your own kind of fitness schedule. When you work in your own business, it's nonstop. And then you've got, your family, and then you got to balance friends and relationships in there as well. And it's like, the more of them that you have, the more fucking difficult it is.
Sure. With all that in mind, do you think, and I've got the same mindset, when will enough be enough? And I have so many people say to me, oh, just enjoy the present. And it gets me thinking, like, with that mindset that we have, do you think there'll ever be a level of contentment?
No, I don't think that there will be, but I think that the most successful people in the world have that mindset. It's not, I don't think it's greed. I don't think it's unhappiness either. I think that people just, like, if you want success, you always have to be ready for the next thing and pushing for the next thing. And if you're not, you're just going to be left behind. Like, unfortunately, that's the way that it is. I think that you don't want to be content, do you? Like, you want to be content, but yeah, you always want to be pushing for the next thing. Yeah, that's what I think.
The things that have brought me the most amount of joy isn't the short-lived party high on the weekend, but the sustained joy of truly achieving something that I'm proud of.
Yeah, I think that especially going through that like period of, hey, I love a party, I love beer, fantastic. I play footy. It's like pretty much part and parcel of playing footy, which I've really stopped very kind of abruptly because I felt like footy culture for me was a little bit too kind of like footy, beers, drugs, like just gambling kind of thing. Like it's very macho man kind of thing. And I'm not really like all for that. I feel like going through that period when you 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, I went to college as well. College was just nonstop party pretty much for a few years. So I think I got all my, a lot of drinking and partying out. But I get much more fulfillment out of waking up on a Sunday and not feeling hungover, waking up on a, Monday and being extremely productive for the week. And then looking at, either sales or looking at people's testimonials and saying how much you've helped change my life. And I'm not doing that if I'm going out every weekend and, and getting on the piss. And I think that the quicker, especially as like a young male, you can break away from going out and getting on the piss or gambling or punting or going to the races or going to the footy or doing that every weekend, you will so quickly progress out of that group and into a different group that you never expected to see yourself in. It'll happen so fucking quickly. But like too many people want to impress other people and are like so worried about fitting in and like they want to go to the races. They want to go, to have a beer with their mates because they've got FOMO of like missing out on like having a beer. It's like, mate, you can go a weekend without getting on the piss and you can wake up on a Sunday and work on your side hustle and then carry on from there. And then once you do start to enjoy the fruits of your labor, then you can start to kind of, have a beer with these people or like, whatever you want to do, but just be a bit more selective with it. You don't have to do it every weekend.
Everyone is hypercritical and terrified to do anything, to put themselves out there and fail. So we hyperanalyze, hypercriticize, become paralyzed and end up doing nothing, sitting watching TikToks and reels of other people's lives. Stop analyzing and stop criticizing and go fail and do some stuff. Maybe you'll even give yourself permission to do the same.
God damn, I love that quote. Such a good quote, right? It's like kind of like the man in the arena quote. It's like everybody's sitting on the sidelines abusing the people that are out there playing footy. And it's like, you're the one out there playing footy. You're whatever it is, you're the one out there doing something. You're the one posting on social media. And then the people are on the sidelines trying to give you shit for it. It's like, I don't understand where the kind of hypercritical mindset comes from, especially in Australia. I don't really know where it comes from, but the quicker that you could realize that people are just criticizing because it makes them feel better about themselves for doing nothing, the quicker you will realize that their opinion means fucking nothing. Like, it doesn't mean anything. They're too busy worrying about what you're doing and you're just too busy worrying on the next thing. And you can't be worried about at all about what their thoughts or opinions are of you.
Has there been an event or something that's happened to make you realize that?
Every bloody weekend. It's fantastic for me. Every weekend I go out to play footy. I'm there. I'm lining up for a set shot and I hear from the sideline, "Prime train, get a haircut, you wanker. You look shit house." And I look to the sideline and it's this bloke with 2 Bundy rums, a cigarette in his mouth, blood vessels popping out of his face, bloodshot eyes. He's about 65 and he looks horrific. And he's there abusing me. And I'm out here playing. And I take a look at him and I think, mate, like, your life's clearly not going that well. You paid entry firstly to come watch me, which is in country footy, which is a worry. You're there with 2 Bundy rums and you look absolutely atrocious. And I'm like there playing footy and I'm like, I get to see the actual avatar of the person who is abusing me sometimes. And I think, you know what? my life's going a shitload better than yours, big fella. And I'm not going to be worried too much about your opinion, which keeps, helps me keep moving forward for sure.
I heard someone say the other day about hate, and it hurts more when it's actually true.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's actually the thing that I really enjoy about social media, right? Is you put yourself out there, and if you get enough comments of people saying either, you're a flog, you're a wanker, the way you're acting here is really, really, really bad, then maybe you do need to change something about yourself. I think that, if there's a few comments here and there and it's, whatever, then that's kind of enough for you to kind of be like, nah, it doesn't matter. But if there's a an influx of comments of the exact same thing about something you're doing, maybe you are being a fuckwit. And I've changed a lot the style of the footy that I play, because despite, I would go and I'd be a bit aggressive and then, try and get hit back, and then I'd, play it over a little bit, because that's what did really well on social media, got heaps of views. But then the quicker that I realized that wasn't, probably the way to go about it, and I had such an influx of comments about it, I stopped kind of playing footy like that. So it's helped me as well change the person a little bit that I am. And I think that's balancing kind of the feeling of caring what people say, but then also being able to be mature enough to listen and be honest with yourself that sometimes, look, you're not perfect, that there's probably some things that you need to change about yourself.
Was there a time that you didn't really want to listen to what people were saying?
Yeah, when people tell me to cut my hair, I like my hair. How many comments I get about my hair? It's hilarious. It's non-stop. It's always get a haircut. And I'm really happy with my hair. I like my hair. My parents, my family like my hair. My friends, you like my hair. Some of my friends hate it. Some of my friends like it.
I love it.
That's probably a harmless one though. I mean, that's something that you can change, I guess. There's obviously things that you can't change. If people come at you for, let's say for your height, or maybe even for I used to have really bad acne. If people come at you for your acne or something like that, they're probably things that are a little bit more difficult to change. So those kind of comments, I find they're a little bit, they're a little bit too much. And I think that, again, you got to remember that these people that are commenting this are very, very bored, very low self-esteem, self-confidence kind of people. Their opinions of you, just don't worry too much about it, because just focus on yourself and do what makes you happy.
I saw you say the other day, you just agree with them.
Yeah, well, yeah.
If someone says I hate you, yeah, I hate myself as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly right. It's you take the piss out of yourself. Be, have a little bit of relatability. People can't what's your response after that? It's it's like with any bully.
I hate you more.
Yeah, it's like with any bully. Remember when you get bullied at school, or when you're a kid, and if you are the bully, or you're the victim, and someone goes, oh, your hair looks terrible. It's like, no, my hair's not. It's like, you're just giving the bully ammunition. It's like, just say, yeah, my hair is terrible. And then the bully's like, what am I going to do now? It's like the Eminem 8 Mile. Have you seen that movie? At the end where Eminem just bullies himself pretty much for a minute 30. And then the rapper was like, I can't even say anything back to you, because you've just completely put everything out there to dry. And I think that's a really good example of how you can kind of just take the piss out of yourself, and people are doesn't take himself too seriously. I think that's important.
So you like the attention then?
Sometimes I do. And then sometimes I despise it. I was at Dom Dollar on the weekend on Friday. Didn't drink because obviously I had High Rocks on the Sunday, which is quite interesting, going to a festival and you're looking around and everybody's quite intoxicated, let's say, off their heads, and I'm kind of there just sober with my mate, looking at everyone else, which was pretty funny. But you're there, and you're with your friends and you just want to have a night out with your friends and you kind of just want to have some fun. And every 5 seconds, I'm getting stopped and asked for a photo. And I'm not saying that to sound cool or to sound like, I'm just saying that nothing's the same anymore. Like you used to be able to go and I'm not fucking DiCaprio, right? Like I couldn't imagine being someone like that.
Oh yeah.
But like people, for some reason, they enjoy the kind of getting a flick or whatever, just chatting and being like, love your content or hate your content or whatever it is. They, whatever. It's a bit of banter. But I think that, like I said, I've done this for 4 or 5 years now. And it's kind of got to the stage now where I'm like, I don't really enjoy it as much anymore. It almost like, it's actually less so for me. It's more so for my friends that like if we're walking to the toilets or something, they have to stop every 5 fucking seconds and wait for me. And they're like, oh, he's getting another. It's more like that it's so frustrating for them because they're like, oh, like this is really annoying kind of thing. So I feel bad for them more so, than for myself. But it is what it is, mate. It comes with the game.
With that in mind, what do you think is a value that people misunderstand about you then?
I think there's a lot of things that people misunderstand about me. I think one of the most, especially for the people that dislike me, I think that something that a lot of people misunderstand about me or the things that I post is if you see me post something inflammatory online, there's generally a reason behind it. I will post something inflammatory or to gain comments or to gain a little bit of an attention because that is what gets the views, it gets the likes, it gets people talking. And I try not to do it in a way where it tears other people down. Because I don't think that's the right way to go about social media. But sometimes people get offended or get up about it, like things that I post. And I think that you got to understand that social media is a saturated game now. Like a lot of people posting on social media. So like to get your content out there, sometimes you have to have something that's a little bit eye-catching. And that's just the way it is.
How big would you dream if you knew you couldn't fail?
I love that quote.
What does it mean to you?
I think that was always one of the big things for me growing up was like my goals were always unreachable. Because if you shoot for the stars, you land on the moon or something. I think that's the quote. Or if you shoot for the moon, you land on the stars. I can't remember. But I think if you shoot for the stars, you land on the moon. And it's like, well, even if they're unreachable, you're at least if your goals are really, really high, you still kind of end up thereabouts sort of thing. So I think that's probably what I really like about that quote.
Are your goals now, are they so what I'm saying is I'm assuming you've achieved some of your goals that you've
100%.
Yeah.
You've
set.
Yeah, because I really enjoy goal setting. It's like one of my favorite things to do. I'm such a weird nerd. I write my goals up on a whiteboard and put them in my room. I write my goals up on the and sticky notes on my mirror, put them in my bathroom. When people come over, they're like, what are these goals? Weird. But yeah, I enjoy getting those reminders every single day of like when I wake up, like this is my goal or this is what I want to do. And I really enjoy having that constant reminder of exactly where I'm going to go with everything. And especially with my goals, like I'll set like yearly goals and then I'll also set like 8-week goals as well, like in blocks, because I find that if you just set a yearly goal, then sometimes you kind of don't really have that much of a time. It's kind of like, oh, well, if I don't do it now, I can kind of do it later on. But a lot of my goals are fantastic for me that keep me so disciplined, because if it's like, remember I had a really good 8-week block this year where I was like release an app, win our grand final, and get in the best shape of my life. And every time that I was like scrolling on my phone, or if I, couldn't be bothered doing a workout or whatever, every time my mind would just click straight back to either which of these goals is this helping me, reach. If I'm scrolling on my phone, it's like not helping me release the app. It's not going to help me win the grand final. And it's not going to help me get in the best shape of my life. So what the fuck am I doing? And it would stop me from doing those things that wasn't pushing the needle, moving the needle forward. And I think, and I implore everyone to set themselves bloody goals, because for me, it really helps. But if goals don't work, then find something that does. Find something that does help you, move the needle and reach those, those aspirations that you have for yourself.
I was going to say, for someone that isn't in that headspace, what would be some good tips for them? I've been a horrific goal person. I sort of feel like I'm running like a deer without deer in front of the headlights. Yeah. Like I'm doing all these things, but there's no clear set defined goal.
Do you feel like you're like motivated?
Absolutely.
Do you feel like if you had for me, I love the constant reminder of just having it on a whiteboard on the wall or having it, especially on the mirror, like sticky notes on the mirror. I fucking love having it there. So every time I look in the mirror, I wake up in the morning, I go to bed at night. It's like, that's what I'm working towards. Instead of going on my phone, I would go and read a book or something. It's like everything will just go towards kind of moving that needle. I think that I just think that the biggest thing that you can do is just being organized with your calendar kind of thing, and then being organized with those like 4 or 8 week blocks. Just set a monthly goal, right? Set January and a February goal kind of thing, especially whatever month it is now, and then the next 2 months that you're looking forward to, or the next 3 months, set those goals, and then you can kind of work forward from there, I feel.
I remember you saying you don't listen to music because you're always listening to podcasts.
I listen to a lot of podcasts. I actually listen to a fair bit of music nowadays, but I go through phases of. I'm a bit of a weird nerd sometimes with what I listen to. At the moment, I'm listening to History of Rome podcast. I love my ancient history, which is just such a random thing about me. So I'm listening to History of Rome. That's what I listen to when I'm driving around in my car, or sometimes I just put the headphones in and listen to some History of Rome. I think it teaches you a lot about like where we came from, and also like the movements of of different people during different times, and it teaches you a lot about how to kind of move in your life and how to maneuver your own life so you don't get in trouble.
Would you strike me as someone that's like obsessed with self-improvement then?
Yeah, definitely. And maybe to my detriment, maybe not.
Why?
I get really
detriment?
No, I get really guilty if I'm not. I feel real guilty if I'm not. If I'm not moving the needle, if I'm not.
To yourself?
Yeah. And I get real. I wouldn't say angry, but I'm honest with myself. Yeah. And I've almost got like, like 2 modes of like being like happy and then being like, fuck, it's time to lock in. Like, let's do this.
What triggers that, do you think?
I think it's just a realization that I'm not where I want to be. And sometimes it just hits, and then it's like, fuck, like this is, you've got one life, you've got one chance at this thing. And if you stuff it up, there's no one else to fucking blame. Like it's you v you. It's always you versus you. And like you can't be blaming anyone else for things that go bad in your life or issues that are arising. Like it's you versus you. So, and I'll never blame anyone else for anything that goes wrong in my life. Like it's no one else's fault but my own. And that's like a really honest thing that I do with myself. I'm always taking accountability for it. But yeah, I'll really lock in and be like, it's time to kind of not talk to, like, even probably this last 4 weeks before High Rocks, I've been super locked in. Like diet's been the same, dialed every single day. Training's been dialed twice a day. And I get in crazy, like I get in like really good shape. And then people are like, wow, you know, you got in really good shape in the last month. Like
Not good enough.
it's like it's happened so quickly. And then like for me, I still see myself as like 4 weeks ago. I'm still like, I still need to lock in.
Does that realization that it's only one life then, does that get overwhelming sometimes? Because I have that as well, man.
It does, but it also brings a lot of happiness for like, yeah, it can be overwhelming, but I enjoy the challenge. I enjoy standing at the base of the mountain being like, fuck, can't wait to climb this thing. You know, like and I'm not just going to walk up it. I'm going to run. Like, let's do it. I really enjoy the look from the base of the mountain to the top and thinking like, this is going to be great. Like, I think that I had that as well. Like I released an app this year. So a fitness app, which is fitness, nutrition. It's got a heap of kind of like running. It's just an all-in-one kind of fitness, nutrition, well-being, everything app. It's crazy good. It's fantastic. I've enjoyed the process of it, and I've built that app really like it. Overall, it probably took 6 months, but I had 3 months to kind of lock in and get it done. And like 6 months is it might sound like a really long time to build an app, but we did it so quickly, and like I did a lot of work on it, and every day I was awake and just like grinding. But then it's really difficult because you get to the end of that like 3 months and you're like burnt out. You're like, oh, God, I can take a break now. I can relax. But you don't really get any relax, like, because then you release the app and then you're like, oh, I can relax. And then you're like, actually, I've got, no subscribers. I've got to figure out my next 3 months of planning of ads, product deals, offers, like what's going to come next. So every time you think that you get to the top of the mountain, you look up and there's another fucking mountain to climb after it. You're like, here we go again. And then, you probably need a day to relax and recuperate and be like, okay, just steel yourself. And then it's like, all right, put on the running shoes because it's time to run up another one.
That's exactly what I said before. Just because you put a product out doesn't mean people are going to buy it. It's
the worst thing, releasing a product and you're like, oh, you literally take this deep breath and you're like, oh, I'm so glad that's done. And then you're like, what am I? No one's bought it. So I've got to bloody go and, I've got to figure out my marketing strategy. I've got to, is the product canned right? Or is it, for me, I do supplements. Is the sups, do we need a different label? Or you run into issues with the product and, you send it out to someone and they might have the wrong label, or, it doesn't have, the same amount of protein as what it said on the, on the website, or the sizing is wrong for the, for the shirt that they've got. It's just more and more issues every day they pile up. But, that's a life of an entrepreneur, I guess.
I heard someone, I think it was Chris, talk about the issues or problems. I think he said, I think I wrote it down here. Here we go. There will never come a time when you have no problems. Your problems will change, but having problems is going nowhere. Dealing with problems is the cost of doing business as a human, not a personal curse.
It's so true, isn't it? The more, and unfortunately, the more successful you get, the more problems are going to arise. It's like you think that, success is going to happen, and then, you're going to have all this, you have money, and then you'll have freedom, but then you've got, then you've got no privacy. You've got all these other issues that start to arise as well. I don't think it becomes easier, but I think that that's something that probably not something that you figure out is going to happen at the start. You just don't know that that's going to be, how it all works out. But you're going to have to know that it's going to be a grind, and it's going to be a grind for a long time, especially if you, an entrepreneur or you're working for yourself. It's like the only way that the business runs is if I wake up in the morning and start doing stuff. Yes, I've got good systems in place that the business can run without me touching it. But then in a month or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, then my ads guy is going to be like, what am I doing ads for next? My email marketers, like, what am I putting out emails for me, for next? What's our plans for the next 6 months? Do we have any, do we have creatives for the next 6 months? What stories are we posting? How are we moving? What content are we doing? Are we all aligned on what we're all posting? And, you've got to be so organized. And that's that thing where if you're like going out every weekend, or if you're waking up on a Sunday hungover or a Monday and you're not productive, everything just starts to kind of crumble before your eyes. So you got to be locked in with that type of stuff.
Where does the drive come from, do you think? Because that's just what you said then, is like there's so much going on. I'm assuming you would have close to 10 employees then.
Yeah, I think that more. I think that, like I said before, the more success that comes, you're like, oh, everything's going to get easier. It's just not. It's going to get more complicated, and then you've got your 3PL that are might send out the wrong product or something, and then you've got issues there. And last year we had our 3PL got burnt down, which was crazy. That was hectic and wild. And then, you just have all these random things that happen to you in business. So I guess, for me, the drive, I'm not really sure where the drive comes from.
Have you ever been asked that?
No, probably not. I think that like what keeps you what keeps you motivated, or why are you motivated? And then I always go back to kind of discipline. I'm just trying to think about it in my head. I think that I've been instilled a lot of drive from my parents, but they don't tell me to wake up every morning at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., which I do now. It becomes a habit in my own life. I think I just want to be successful. I want a good life for my kids. I want to be in Italy by the time I'm 60. That'd be nice. Retired, sipping on wine and eating pizza every day with my tomatoes out the back.
I was going to ask for 4. Are you chasing the stardom or the freedom then?
Yeah, I think for me, freedom is something that I value pretty much, maybe bigger than anything.
Yeah.
Freedom for me is the most important, because when I first came out of school and I was an employee, I hated being an employee so much. Probably because I just wasn't fucking good at it, to be honest. I was a terrible employee. I just probably wasn't that good, but I was probably a terrible employee because I wasn't cut out. Like that just wasn't the way that I thought. I was very creative. I was very like driven in my own kind of way, and I didn't enjoy kind of making money for other people. I was like, I can kind of do this myself. I had enough belief in myself to do it myself. So I was like, why am I working so hard and waking up early for these people to fill their pockets when I feel like I could kind of do this myself? And I feel like, I just wanted to, I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to wake up every day and then build my own baby, build my own business, instead of kind of pushing for other people's. And there's nothing wrong with being an employee. Being an employee is fantastic, but it was just never for me, unfortunately.
With that in mind, you're excited by the mountains that are yet to be climbed. I'm assuming there's a few of them.
There's a lot. There's a lot of mountains that I'm really excited to climb. I think that, for me, I'm doubling down on, on this app that we've released, which has been going crazy good. I think that's the big focus for me moving forward. I'm pretty keen on traveling over to America as well next year and doing some time over there. Continue to expand the brand and the business, which will really be the next step. And like, that's pretty I think that's pretty daunting for a lot of people. But for me, I'm just like not filled with any like none of me is scared. It's all just excited. So I think that's a really cool prospect for me. I don't know. I think that a lot of people get really scared by the future or what's to come, and that's not the person that I am. I can't wait to do the next thing.
If you want to be exceptional, you're going to have to be different than everyone else. I know you've heard this one. That's what makes you exceptional. You can't fit in and also be exceptional. Both have discomfort. When you fit in, you have internal conflict because you're not being 100% you. When you're exceptional, you have one external conflict because everyone else says you was different. Pick one. When your friends start to say you've changed, it's because they don't know how to say you've grown.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I think that your friends or, people around you sometimes don't know how to admit that you're doing something crazy. Like I'm so fortunate. I just had one of my best mates come over from Perth, in the last week, Callan, England. And he's so crazy, like 7 years later or 8 years since we left school, how different we are as people. It's quite funny going back and seeing some of my school friends because a lot of them are still the same as what they were when they were 18 and we're now 25. I love them.
Is that a reality check for you? You're like, I've grown a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy when I go back and like nothing's changed in a year or nothing's changed in 4 years or 5 years or 6 years or 7 years. And I'm like, fuck, I'm so different to what I was then, and it's like, and even that, a lot of them say, you're a lot different to what you were at school. I was very boisterous, got in trouble a lot at school. I was very loud, very obnoxious, which I still am, unfortunately.
Don't change it, mate.
Yeah, and then, but now I've still retained part of that, but then I also have this steely, focused, driven mindset that I probably didn't have back then.
I was going to ask, what do you think is the main thing that's changed? I'm assuming that's one of them.
Yeah, I think that finding some sort of maturity in myself and finding that pretty quickly. But then also not being worried about not being liked. Going back to what we said at the start, where I said that I wanted to fit in. I don't care if I don't fit in anymore. I don't fit in anymore. And I'm probably the happiest that I've been not fitting in. I don't need to be accepted by anyone. I just want to be the person that I am. And then by being the person that I am, I will fit in with people that are like me because we will find each other. And we have now. And I've got such a great group of friends that are all very similar to me. And that's like the best thing I reckon that's happened in my life. Realizing that you're going to have to go through a little bit of a lonely chapter and you're going to do your own thing. And, that way is how you'll find, your real people.
You become who you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with negative people, you become negative. But if you surround yourself with successful, growth-minded people, you'll become successful too.
I would even go deeper. I'd say if you surround yourself with 9 dickheads, you'll become the 10th. And it runs so true when you surround yourself with just wankers because you just become exactly like them, And if you surround yourself with 9 great people, you will be the 10th. And I think that too much of the time we don't take a step back and be like, who am I actually surrounding myself? Like write down, like I will implore anyone to do this. Write down like your 9 closest friends. And I can assure you that you are a product of those 9 people. And then write down 3 or 4 people that you would like to be like and find those 3 or 4 people that are similar, don't go writing down like Cristiano Ronaldo, like freaking Barack Obama. Like they're not realistic, Like write down 4 people that that you would really like to be like. Because your circle doesn't have to be big. Your circle should be small. It should be, 2 to 3 really close friends. And that's it. If it's too big, you're trying to impress too many people. You're trying to make too many people like you. Keep it really small. Like have those 2 or 3 people and have your family, and that's all you need. Anything more, I don't think that you're focused on what you need to do.
On the topic of close friends, we had a chat before this,
Mm-hmm.
and you mentioned you were comfortable talking about one of your close friends and the impact that he had on your life. Do you want to talk more about that? Yeah,
absolutely. I think that it's not something that I really talk about too much, but I went and did a school talk the other day, which was crazy for me. You know, I got to stand up in front of year 10s, 11s and 12s and, do this big speech to a heap of people. And I've never really loved public speaking that much, but I really enjoyed this day down at the Friends School in Tasmania. And I got to stand up in front of the cohort and, give a little bit of advice on everything, and on life. And I got to this, this moment in my life where, my best mate, Henry Jennings, we, were out on a night out and, we were at college together. We were very close friends, and we, went out for a night out, and it was New Year's and everything was all good. He left a little bit early. And then, unfortunately, as he was walking home, he got struck by a drunk driver and passed away that night. So some of the boys found him, and obviously the news travels pretty quick because you're getting calls and calls, and you're trying to figure out what the bloody hell everyone's calling you for.
What happened when you figured it out?
Sobered up pretty quickly. I was on the phone and I kind of just dropped. And I remember being around a few other people and you could tell that the vibe, the energy of the room, they knew that something was going on. And I was like, I just didn't believe it. I thought they were joking. It's a pretty weird thing to joke about, but it was pretty just nah, that wouldn't happen. And, we're 20, 21 at this stage, so very, very young. And I literally just dropped and I just couldn't believe it. Anyway, that was a moment in my life and a moment in kind of, my family and, my friends' lives that was quite difficult, obviously, for all of us to deal with. And for me, especially, I probably didn't know how much it affected me at the time. I was actually I was playing VFL footy. I was doing pretty well in kind of college and uni, and I probably turned a little bit to the drinking and, vaping, just kind of coping mechanisms for it. And I was like, nah, nothing's wrong with me. I'm fine kind of thing. I actually thought I'd gotten over it really quick. I was like, mate, I'm fine. I can kind of, then looking back on it, it was I really struggled with it. And I think that for me, I eventually kind of started to snap out of it probably 3 or 6 months down the road and started to realize that you do really get that one chance with your life. It's such an eye-opening thing when your best mate passes away at 20, 21. Because a lot of people don't get death in their family unless it's grandparents or something, because that's grandparents and aunties and uncles a little bit older. It's well, you're not invincible at that age, but you think you're invincible at 20, 21. Anyway, that really changed my life and got me onto social media, really. That was, pretty much that 4 or 5 years ago now. And I was like, well, I only really get one crack at this life, so might as well do it. And I think that was probably the biggest change in my perspective of caring what other people thought, because I was like, I'm literally on a freaking floating rock, and someone's opinion of me on social media or like my friend's opinion of me doesn't matter, because I'm going to die one day. They're going to die one day, and they're probably going to forget this and I'm going to forget it. So it's like, realistically, nothing fucking matters. So that was a big change for me and helped me kind of do my own thing. So shout out to Jeno for that. Yeah, he's a big catalyst for what kind of happened in my life. Yeah.
I heard you had a chat with him when you were at uni, I think, and you asked each other if there's anything that we'd want to do in our lives, and he said, "There's nothing that I haven't done."
Such a weird perspective from a 20-year-old, right? Like, we were literally 3 months before he passed away. I was sitting down with him, and we were in our college rooms. We chatted a lot of shit in there, to be honest, but this was one thing that really stuck in my mind. And I remember having that conversation, and then, you know, the follow-on question was, so you'd be happy? I asked him, so you'd be happy if you died today? Like, you'd be happy? And he goes, yeah, I've done everything in my life. I've been like the happiest person ever. Like, if I died, it'd be okay. I remember sitting there at 20 being like, what the fuck, mate? Like, we got so much life ahead of us. Like, how could you ever think like that? And he was like, nah, like, I've done everything. But it wasn't in the fact that like he'd literally done everything in life. It was just like, I've lived my life to the fullest. And that gave me a lot of comfort after he passed away, like having that conversation with him, because I knew that he was happy and he didn't leave any stone unturned. I think that moving on for me, for the rest of my life, I was like, I just want to live every single moment that I can, you know, to the fullest. And I still don't, like, if I died today, I wouldn't be happy. Like, there's still so much shit that I want to do. But I couldn't believe he had that mindset. And that was something that I remember I spoke at his funeral and I said that. And I almost like, it was pretty difficult when you're saying that. And then, you know, his parents are sitting in the front row, and it's like, again, that's a maturing thing that you have to go through as a young man when your best friend dies, and trying to figure out, you know, how to kind of maneuver through life after that. And I think that, you know, looking back, that was one of the big kind of, I guess, turning points for everything that happened for me.
You spoke about realizing that you were okay. You were saying you thought you're okay.
Yeah.
What happened when you realized, what happened when you realized that you probably weren't okay?
I think that I just had so many people being like, I think that you need to like chill out a little bit. Like, but it was hard because I think that we all did it. So again, my group, again, like if you're surrounded by 5 or 6 people that are, you know, being, you know, drinking and whatever else, you're going to be, you know, the 5th or the 6th. So we all turned to kind of like drinking and doing that as like a coping mechanism. So like we all thought we were having fun. And then, yeah, I remember kind of like being, you know, in my household at the time, was living with a few flatmates, and they didn't really know Henry that much. And they were probably like, you know, I don't know if this is like the best way of doing it. And it was never like a bloody intervention or anything, but yeah, I think I just needed to snap out of it a little bit. Yeah, it was a crazy time, because when you're living in that, you know, in that moment, you don't really know that, you know, that you're doing what you're doing because it's a coping mechanism. You think just, and then I have so much like, I don't know, I think I feel for people that are kind of in that are going through that and then can never snap out of it, because you don't even really know that you're in that deep.
What do you miss most about him?
His laugh, funniest laugh. But I just think his ability, he always had this incredible ability to communicate with other human beings. Like, he just wasn't disliked by anyone. he just knew how to like bring up the energy in the entire room. And it was something that no one could mimic. Like, you just knew that if you were going to have a night or a day with Jeno, that it was going to be the best day of your life, because he just knew how to like make the party the biggest vibe, or make the day the biggest vibe. And it didn't matter what you're doing. It didn't matter if you were, going out, or if you were literally just watching the NBA together. Or we'd watch test match cricket together and somehow make it the most enjoyable day of your life. But yeah, that's probably a few things I miss a lot about him.
I'm still yet to process it. You're my best mate and the nicest person I've ever met. You had an amazing ability to bring everyone up around you up, and you could always turn a mediocre night into the night of your life. I know you live your life to the fullest and you're always happy. I'll take time to rest and remember, but all in all, we should be celebrating your amazing 21 years on this earth. I know that's what you'd want. I could write paragraph on paragraph, but no matter what I say, it wouldn't do you justice for how much of a legend you were and how much I loved you. Rest easy, my king. Show him how it's done up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gives me chills. I can't believe that. That's wild. Yeah, it's crazy because sometimes, and this might sound a little bit weird, but sometimes when people pass away, everyone's like, oh, he was such a good person, or they were such a good person. Were they really a good person? Like sometimes everyone just says that when someone passes away, but this guy was legit one of the best people you've ever come across. He was just fucking fantastic. Yeah, I couldn't say a bad word about him, to be honest. But yeah, I think that, every year we have I was just up there probably a few months ago. We have kind of a lunch and he's got his own like plaque now down on the college where we used to all go. They've got a scholarship now there for him as well, which is fantastic. And it's pretty much like given to someone who's like the best, just like the best vibe, the best bloke that you can find at the college, and they get the scholarship, which is like, imagine having like a scholarship named after like you for being a good bloke. It's just like a crazy thing. So yeah, no, he was an enigma. He was great.
I found that award in my research.
Yeah.
Peter and Alison, I think.
Peter and Alison, that's his parents. Yeah. So I've got a really good relationship with them. And every time I go back to the coast, I always go and catch up with them. And we all have a really close relationship with the family. So he was the only child, which is pretty difficult for them, but we always try to keep a really close relationship, with that family, and really want his memory to live on, I reckon.
Would you still consider him, and this is I'm not sure if you're this deep, but like if you talked about like the close circle and the close friends, like do you still feel like you've got him in your life?
No, I don't. I don't, but I know he's there, kind of thing. It's like and I know that he'd be really proud of what I'm doing. But it's really, like, he's been gone for 4 or 5 years now, so it's like he'd be such a different person now than what he would have been. Obviously when he passed, but I just know he's always there, and I don't know, it's hard because I moved down to Melbourne now, and he would have still been in Queensland. But again, none of this I wouldn't have done any of this unless that happened. So yeah, it's changed a shitload of my life.
What's the main learning? Sorry to cut you off.
I think that you're just not invincible. Like especially as a 20-year-old or even 25, like it's a pretty eye-opening thing for me, that you're just not invincible. Like at any time, something can happen. A drunk driver can hit you. You could get struck down with, God knows what. It's like, that's probably why I try to live a healthy lifestyle as well. Because I do want to be there for for my family when they get old. I want to be there for my kids when they grow up, and I want to be, I don't want to live forever, but I want to be around for a while. I want to live on this earth for as long as possible.
Why would I want to do what everyone else is doing if I want a different outcome than everyone else?
Love that, because everyone's always like, why do you, why do you take things so serious? Why do you get up at 5 a.m. or why do you bother going for the run, or why bother working till 9 p.m. or 11 p.m. or 10 p.m. and responding to emails, or, why bother? Like, you don't need to do that. You don't need to get up and do an ice bath. You don't need to, people always question it and say, I don't want to be like you. I don't. I want to be more. And if I'm going to be like you, then I'll just do the exact same as you, but I don't want to be anything.
Your close friends, like, could you count them on your hand?
Yep. Yeah. Very easily.
Does that make it easier?
Yeah. Yeah. Because they wouldn't question me on that. That they would never ask me that. They would know exactly why I'm doing it. And that's the thing. If you have too many close friends, you've got to like explain to all of them why you're doing what you're doing. You've got less people to impress if you have a close circle. And they don't rely on you. It's not like, oh, come out for dinner or do this or do that. And I say, oh, no, like, I'm not eating that because I'm on a diet or something at the moment. Like I'm not going and having, pasta or, I'm on a diet. And, they would say, my close friends would say, I understand, They don't need me to be there for them. They know that I love them. Then I know that they love me. It's not like this constant reassurance of needing to go to dinner or having a beer with them every weekend. It's like they know I'm there for them when they need me. Great example was this weekend at High Rocks. I was there for Lou at 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., helped him with content, helped filming, helped him after the race, whatever it might be. Then he came to mine at 9 a.m. on a Sunday, which is just a shit time. Like, who the fuck wants to come to that on a 9 a.m. on a Sunday? Especially for him, he might have had a few beers on Saturday. Means you have to wake up at 7 and get there. He was there, had a great support crew that came along. And it's like, that would be something that I would appreciate someone being there for more than having a beer with them on a Saturday night, because that's a big thing for me, because he can help, do the content or, help actually, my business and everything that, that is involved in that. So I think that, yeah, my friends, they know when I'll be there for them, and I know that, that they'll be there for me.
It's crazy, man. I haven't drunk for 3 years, it's 2.5 years.
How do you feel?
Amazing.
It's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
It's so much mental clarity. Like, I implore everybody to go sober for like 3 to 6 months. Like, you just have to do it.
Yeah.
To figure out like if you like it or if you don't like it.
Sure.
A month isn't even long enough. You need to do it for like 3 to 6 and really figure out also how fucking difficult it is to say no to like a beer when you're out with your friends, or like, especially this time of the year, like January or December, January, Christmas, all that time, you're around family, you're around friends. It can be really difficult to say no. So I have the utmost respect. And then the last thing you want is someone like forcing it on you. It's like, if you say no, I mean no. Like, don't try and, like, you're not going to twist my arm.
That's exactly why I brought it up, because I've still got people in my life. I'm not sure what you could call them, but they're people in my life.
Acquaintances.
You having a beer today?
Yeah.
I don't drink, man.
Yeah.
I don't know why you're saying that.
It's a really difficult thing to kind of say no and then be like, nah, like, I'm really not doing it. Like, and then you have to deal with, oh, boring now, or used to be fun, or, all of these other, it's like, man, I've heard all this shit before. It didn't change it months ago. It didn't change it a year ago. It's not going to change me today. Like, if I say no, I don't want it. So yeah, I think that we're definitely moving the idea that drinking doesn't have to be for everyone. Like, it used to be every single person did it, and there wasn't really an excuse to get out of it. But now, like, you're allowed to not have a beer. Like, it's not, I think it's slowly starting to become a little bit more accepted, dare I say.
Do you think you've grown as a person by having that belief?
Oh, absolutely. I think I've grown as a person by doing it. So I understand like the mind, like I understand the minds because I get it from my family. That's the hardest thing for me because my family love drinking.
Okay.
And my parents love to have a drink and they're fun. And my sister loves to have a drink. And I used to love to have a drink. And it was almost a way of us like connecting.
Mm.
And then if I don't do it, then my family sometimes are like, why aren't you having a drink? Or like, oh, you're not fun or you're boring. And it's like, yeah, for me, I almost get frustrated when people say that because it shouldn't have to be the reason that, that you hang out with someone or you don't hang out with someone.
Yeah, I heard you say you get to the point where it's like, do you even want to be in these social situations if people are just going to...
Yeah, they're just going to hack on you the whole time.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's not even fun. Sometimes I just, I would prefer just not to go. It's so hard though because I get the double-edged sword. I do it sometimes. I don't do it other times. Like I've had such a big year, and as soon as I finished Hard Rocks yesterday, it was sunny, and I was like, just have a couple of beers out in the sun. It's beautiful. Had about 8 or 10 of my support crew and I guess friends around, and obviously the videographer and stuff. It was kind of like a celebratory thing. And it's like, that's fine. And I wake up on Monday and I feel fucking brilliant. So I've got no issues, but like the 5 a.m. sessions or the 3 a.m. sessions is something that is quite destructive to productivity for me that I find aren't really something I want to be doing anymore.
Don't take criticism from people you'd never go to for advice.
Yeah.
That's a cracker.
Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? It's kind of on the same wavelength of hate never travels down. Like it's so funny. I get a lot of local footballers or even just people that like to kind of clip on me or hate on me. And then I go to these events and, with AFL players, and all the AFL players are like, oh, really love your stuff, man. Love what you're doing for local footy. Love what you're doing for footy. Love what love what you're doing on social media. And then and I'm like, how is the people above me like so positive about what I'm doing? And then the people that are below me that doesn't sound right.
It's true,
but people that aren't doing the same things as me are the ones that are trying to cut me down. It's an interesting perspective.
I don't think there'll ever be people not trying to cut you down, mate. And not even you.
Anyone.
Yeah. Anyone who's having a crack.
Yeah. And that's the way that the world works. It's the way that Australia tall poppy syndrome works as well. You got to accept that that tall poppy syndrome is a big thing here in Australia, and people always try to cut down people that are doing something different. I'm really excited to do a little bit of time in America next year and see what the difference in culture is like. I'm really excited for that.
I've heard everyone tries to bring you up there.
Yeah, I don't know. My sister lives in New York, and she says it can be, and then there can be similarities to tall poppy syndrome there as well. But I have heard as well, most people say that everyone does try to bring you up. So I'm really excited to experience it for myself and see what it's like.
Thank you for joining me today, man.
Man, I really appreciate it. It's been so
awesome
much fun.
chat.
I could talk for hours.
Yeah.
I could talk for Australia.
Give me some final wisdom.
You can't achieve anything if you don't set goals. If you don't set goals, you're never ticking things off. You don't get that little dopamine hit of I'm progressing. Set those mini goals and, move in months or move in 8-week blocks, and set those smaller goals and then hit them and then keep on moving forward. And then once you start hitting those small goals, you can eventually start ticking off those big goals. But if you don't have goals, you can't achieve anything.
What's your main goal?
I think I want to be one of the biggest, if not biggest, social media fitness personalities in Australia and in the world. I want to be the person that athletes go to. I want to be the person that that people go to for their fitness advice, for their gym programs, and for their mindset as well.
No matter how big you get, mate, just promise me you'll come back, and maybe next time when we have one of these, it won't be in the living room.
No, I love it, mate. No, thank you so much for having me on. Your expertise and your dedication to the craft is unbelievable. So congrats on everything you're doing. I know you're a busy man, so I can't thank you enough for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I've got one last quote to end it with.
Hit me.
I did a lot of research preparing for this conversation. One of those involved typing your name in and Henry's in at the same time onto Google to see what I could find.
Okay.
And I stumbled upon his Facebook page.
Good.
And I scrolled down right to the bottom, and there was a post that he posted, I think, in 2018.
Okay.
And it was a message to you. So I'm going to read it out.
Oh, wow. Great.
Dear Mr. Baulch, I'm writing this message to formally congratulate you on your recent TikTok stardom. I, along with many other peers, have been touched by the videos you have graced us with, and it would be amiss if we did not share this fact with you. I truly hope that this is only the start and you swiftly progress onto bigger and better things, as we are all behind you. You have personally changed my life through your videos and made me once again believe that I could one day smoke on Cookie in the hot box. I knew you'd laugh at that because I had no idea what it was. You are truly an inspiration and an icon of our generation. Thank you and congratulations once again, Mr. Baulch. Regards, Henry Jennings.
He's the GOAT. I love that man.
Do you remember saying that?
Nah, I don't, to be honest. It's crazy, isn't it? Those things, they just, you don't, No, it's touching.
It's a good way to end it, brother. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, my man. Appreciate you. Good stuff.
Thanks, man.
That was crazy.
Yeah?
That was crazy. Well
Good.
done.
Thank you, man.
That was awesome.
That felt good.
Oh, that was intense. Did you like it?
Yeah. I told you to go pretty deep.
Yeah, that was great. That's crazy find. It's a crazy find, that last one.
I know you didn't have much to say.
No.
Probably good that you did.
I know. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. When I saw it, I was like, wow, that's good.
Wow, that's a deep pull. It's impressive.